On Halloween night 1981, a hospital became a hunting ground, and a sequel rewrote all the rules. The 1980s weren't just home to slashers in the shadows. They sparked a risk-filled scramble as filmmakers unleashed more gore, masked experiments, and heavy metal demons on October's haunted stage. But behind each movie set on or around Halloween, from smashed records to total franchise chaos, are controversies and gambles most horror fans never see. Just how far did these films go to capture a holiday's dark heart? And what was the price for changing the genre forever? Minutes after Laurie Strode's desperate escape, the streets of Haddonfield empty into harsh fluorescent corridors. Halloween 2 doesn't pause for breath. It begins with sirens wailing, paramedics rushing Laurie through sliding hospital doors, and Michael Myers already back on the hunt. The entire film unfolds over a single relentless night, trapping survivors and staff inside the maze of Haddonfield Memorial. Hallways stretch into darkness, doors slam shut, and every footstep echoes with the threat of violence. The hospital's quiet becomes a pressure cooker, each room a hiding place or a dead end. Michael moves with silent certainty, forcing Laurie and her would-be protectors into a deadly game of cat and mouse. The structure is unforgiving. There's no dawn, no reprieve, just the constant sense that time is running out. Every scene tightens the screws, compressing terror into real time. This sequel refuses to let its characters or its audience escape the nightmare, amplifying the original suspense by refusing to break the spell of Halloween night. The decision to pick up moments after the first film's ending creates a sense of inevitability, as if the horror can't be contained or delayed. The hospital's sterile halls become a crucible, and Laurie's ordeal grows more punishing with each passing minute. The story's pacing, urgent, claustrophobic, and unbroken, sets a new standard for how sequels can trap viewers in the same nightmare, stretching a single night into an eternity of fear. John Carpenter watched the first cut of Halloween 2 and made a decision that would reshape the sequel and the entire slasher genre. The film, as shot by Rick Rosenthal, leaned on suspense and restraint, echoing the bloodless tension of the 1978 original. But by 1981, the market had shifted. Friday the 13th and its imitators had set a new standard for on-screen violence. Producers faced a stark reality. Without more explicit gore, Halloween 2 risked being left behind at the box office. Carpenter stepped in, taking over the editing room and orchestrating a series of reshoots. These weren't minor tweaks. Entire death scenes were reimagined, from the infamous boiling nurse to the syringe murders, each one filmed with a focus on blood and shock. The body count climbed, reaching 10 graphic on-screen deaths, far surpassing the original's famously minimal violence. Each kill was longer, more brutal, designed to meet audience appetite for spectacle. The cost was more than creative. The reshoots pushed the budget past its original $2.5 million, though the exact overrun remains off the books. Still, the gamble paid off. Halloween 2 grossed $25 million in domestic theaters, a tenfold return that justified every extra shooting day. The tension between director and producer played out in the editing suite, with Rosenthal's vision for character and atmosphere giving way to Carpenter's commercial calculation. What ended up on screen was a film shaped as much by market demand as by artistic intent. A sequel engineered to keep pace with a genre that now measured success in gallons of fake blood. Three latex faces, Pumpkin, Skull, and Witch, became the unlikely stars of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Universal wanted the story's villain to be something you could actually buy, so they turned to Dawn Post Studios, legendary for their mask-making craft. The team set out to create props that could double as real merchandise, blurring the line between movie fantasy and Halloween reality. The pumpkin was sculpted from scratch, painted in a bold, day-glow orange that glowed under blacklight. The Skull and Witch started as classics from the Dawn Post catalog, but each was tweaked for the film. The Skull got a luminous finish for eerie nighttime scenes, and the Witch turned a sharp, almost radioactive green. Unlike the cheap, thin masks that filled drugstore aisles, these were built for collectors. Each retailed at $25, a steep jump from the usual $8.50, aimed at teens and adults who wanted a piece of horror history, not just a costume for trick-or-treating. Specialty costume shops and magic stores stocked them, skipping the mass market chains entirely. The film's marketing campaign leaned into this with mask-making demos and silver shamrock coloring contests at Universal's backlot, inviting kids to color newspaper ads and dream of owning a screen-used prop. The silver shamrock jingle, a relentless earworm in the movie, echoed the logic of real advertising, selling both a product and a nightmare. Behind the scenes, prop makers watched their designs become icons, knowing that for a brief season, their latex creations were as central to Halloween as candy corn and carved pumpkins. Universal's gamble on Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, met a wall of resistance almost overnight. Trade headlines in late October 1982 captured the mood. Audiences lined up expecting Michael Myers and left bewildered by masks, androids, and a plot about killer commercials. The domestic gross stalled at $14.4 million, barely half of what Halloween 2 had pulled in just a year earlier. Critics were blunt. Variety called it an unsatisfying trick, while the Los Angeles Times pointed to the missing slasher as a fatal flaw. Fan mail and box office receipts told the same story. The franchise's identity was inseparable from its masked killer. Studio executives scrambled to contain the fallout. Plans for an anthology series were quietly shelved, and internal memos shifted focus back to familiar territory. The message was clear. Brand loyalty had its limits, and the experiment in reinvention had gone too far. By early 1983, work began on a new script that would resurrect Michael Myers, restoring the formula that audiences demanded. The swift course correction was as much a business calculation as a creative one, a response to the sharp drop in revenue and the vocal disappointment from fans and critics alike. For Universal, the lesson was simple. In horror franchises built on a single icon, even a well-crafted seasonal hook couldn't fill the void left by a missing legend. A cassette rewinds, a guitar riff screams, and Trick or Treat ignites a different kind of Halloween night. Released in 1986, this is the era when horror and heavy metal collided head-on. The film centers around Eddie Weinbauer, a bullied teenager whose idol, rock star Sammy Kerr, dies in a hotel fire, only to return from the grave through a cursed vinyl record played backwards on Halloween. The resurrection isn't subtle. Kerr's ghost unleashes pyrotechnic chaos, zapping bullies with electric bolts and turning high school stages into war zones. Every frame pulses with the energy of 80s metal. Posters plastered on bedroom walls, denim vests, and a soundtrack that feels as dangerous as the supernatural plot. The music isn't just background noise, it's the heart of the film. Trick or Treat secured tracks from Fastway, a supergroup led by ex-Motorhead guitarist Fast Eddie Clarke, with vocals from Dave King. The soundtrack's pounding drums and snarling guitar solos land with the force of a live show, giving the movie its cult edge among metalheads. But that same soundtrack created a headache for future fans. Licensing deals for the songs were tangled and expensive, limiting reissues and streaming releases for decades. Home video copies became collector's items, and fans traded bootlegs just to hear the original tracks. Even today, official releases often swap out music or trim scenes, making the authentic experience a rare prize for diehards. Trick or Treat's appeal goes beyond its plot. Cameos from rock icons like Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne cement its place in metal history, while the film's Halloween setting, complete with haunted dances and possessed amplifiers, captures the rebellious spirit of the holiday. For a generation of outcasts, the movie offered both a power fantasy and an anthem, blending horror with the noise and fury of metal culture. The result is a film that lives on at the intersection of nostalgia, subculture, and the enduring thrill of a night when the rules don't apply. A school hallway glows with orange streamers and paper skeletons. But for Frankie Scarlatti, Halloween Night in 1962 is less about candy than about secrets that linger long after the costumes are packed away. Lady in White, released in 1988, opens with a child's eye view of a small town where the supernatural feels as close as the next shadow. Frankie, played by Lucas Haas, is locked in his classroom closet by classmates as a prank, left alone after dark while the rest of the world celebrates. What begins as a harmless trick turns into something far stranger. Frankie witnesses the ghost of a young girl, reliving her final moments. And soon, he's drawn into a mystery that weaves together memory, grief, and the unspoken fears of his community. Director Frank LaLoggia grew up in upstate New York, surrounded by family tales of ghosts and old tragedies. He poured those memories into every frame of Lady in White, crafting a story where the holiday's playful masks barely hide the sadness underneath. The film's setting, a foggy, leaf-strewn village, captures the sense of a world on the edge of dreaming, where the past never quite lets go. Unlike the blood-soaked slashers that filled theaters in the same decade, this story lingers on the ache of loss and the innocence of a child trying to understand the darkness around him. The legend at the heart of the film is drawn from local folklore, a story passed from parent to child about a woman searching for her murdered daughter. Halloween becomes more than a backdrop. It's the night when the veil between worlds thins, letting old sorrows slip through. The mystery unfolds with a gentle pace, letting the melancholy of autumn and the loneliness of childhood settle in the corners of every scene. Lady in White refuses easy scares. Instead, it asks what it means to grow up with ghosts, real or imagined, and how a single night can change the way a child sees the world forever. Ed Harley, driven by grief, carries his son's body through the woods to a shack where a crone promises help, but only by awakening something buried and old. She sends him into a pumpkin patch, thick with the smell of decay. Ed claws at the earth until he unearths a corpse, limbs twisted, head shaped like a jack-o'-lantern warped by time. This is the seed of Pumpkinhead, a monster born from sorrow and soil. Pumpkinhead's creation began in the hands of Stan Winston, whose effects team would later define the monsters of Alien and Jurassic Park. Winston wanted a demon that felt rooted in folklore but looked like nothing seen before. Sculptors Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr. started with the pumpkin itself, stretching its ridges into the lines of a skull, blending them with the sinew and bone of something once human. The head is unmistakable, elongated, orange-tinged, eyes sunken and glowing. Every vein and wrinkle was sculpted by hand, then cast in foam latex to capture every shadow and glint of moonlight. Animatronic servos hid beneath the mask and jaw, letting Pumpkinhead snarl and bare its teeth in close-up. Tom Woodruff Jr. wore the suit for most scenes, his movements giving the monster its hunched, predatory gait. The suit sweats and collects dirt. The claws drag through mud. There's nothing digital or distant about it. Pumpkinhead's silhouette is a scarecrow twisted into nightmare. Fingers like roots, limbs stretched too far. The body echoing the shape of something left to rot in a field. The pumpkin imagery isn't just surface. It's the monster's core, tying the curse to autumn and the fear of what waits after harvest. Winston's team built multiple suits and puppet heads, each painted in bruised oranges and browns, echoing the look of a pumpkin collapsing into the earth. The craftsmanship is tactile, every detail a tribute to the era when monsters were built by hand and nightmares wore real skin. Ed Harley's wish for vengeance becomes a curse that cannot be called back. As Pumpkinhead stalks the woods, each act of violence lands not just on the guilty, but on the grieving father who called the monster forth. The creature's rampage is relentless. Bodies are left twisted in the mud, and the line between justice and cruelty blurs with every scream. Yet, beneath the claws and fangs, there's a sorrow that runs deeper than any wound. Ed's pain echoes through the monster, their fates tied by a grief that will not heal. The more Pumpkinhead hunts, the more Ed is haunted by visions of his son and the faces of the doomed. The film never lets viewers forget the cost of revenge. Every time the demon strikes, Ed feels it as if it were his own flesh. The audience is left to wonder who suffers more, the hunted or the man who unleashed the hunting. That ache is why Pumpkinhead endures. Unlike the faceless killers of other horror films, this creature carries the weight of loss. The story's tragedy is as much about a father's regret as it is about supernatural terror. Viewers find themselves caught between fear and sympathy, drawn to the monster's pain as much as its power. This emotional core is what keeps Pumpkinhead alive, in the memory of horror fans long after the credits roll. Year after year, Pumpkinhead returns to television screens each October. Cable channels like USA Network, Sci-Fi, and AMC's Fear Fest have made it a staple of Halloween marathons. Streaming services now push it to the front of their horror lineups, cementing its place as a seasonal ritual. The film's practical effects, crafted by Stan Winston's team, with Tom Woodruff Jr. inside the suit, have inspired generations of artists. The monster's design shows up in later classics, from Alien 3 to Tremors, carried forward by the same hands that first brought it to life. For fans and filmmakers, Pumpkinhead isn't just a monster. It's a legacy of real sweat, latex, and heartbreak. A reminder that the scariest stories are the ones that never let go. In the 1980s, 5 films, released between 1981 and 1988, used Halloween as a backdrop, each redefining what the holiday meant for horror. Evidence shows Halloween 2's single-night continuity set a franchise model, while Halloween 3's $25 masks led to a steep box office drop and a swift return to the original formula. Trick or Treat and Lady in White proved the holiday's versatility, merging heavy metal and personal memory into new subgenres. Pumpkinhead, led by Stan Winston's effects team, found its seasonal place through autumnal imagery and annual October broadcasts. Yet questions remain. Why did certain risks, like the anthology format, fail to take hold? And how did licensing issues limit cult classics' reach? Today, these films continue to shape Halloween programming, relying on documented production choices and cultural responses. The archival record is clear. These movies forged a legacy that still defines how audiences experience Halloween on screen.